But we'll move on to our first story, which is UAE companies can be fined up to 50,000 dirhams for not paying employee salaries on time. So listen up, workers. Now, please do share this with your employer if you haven't been paid your full salary on time. So the Ministry of Human Resources and Amortization, MOHRE, is warning all private sector establishments to ensure employee salaries are being paid in full and on time to avoid hefty fines of up to 50,000 dirhams. Now, penalties for not paying employee their full wage on time include entry of incorrect data in the Wages Protection System, WPS, for the purposes of invasion and circumvention will result in a 5,000 dirham fine for each worker and 50,000 in cases of multiple workers, and failure to pay on the date that's mentioned in the contract will result in a 1,000 dirham fine per employee, and forcing employees to sign a fake pay slip to show that they've received their salaries will result in a 5,000 dirham fine per employee.
So basically, the employer is considered late in paying if the salary is not paid to the employee within 10 days from the due date. The employer is considered as refusing to pay if the wage is not paid to the employee within 1 month of the due date.
So, I mean, these rules, regulations are obviously there in place because people have been, I mean, I'm sure companies and organizations have been found flouting this, not just flouting, like, you know, like violating these regulations and violating just the contract that they've signed with their employee.
It's such a shame because I'm sure a lot of people have been affected by this. I know someone in one organization, you know, they get paid 20 days late. And when you are a solo single person with no family to provide for, we probably don't, you know, you're like, okay, 20 days, maybe I'm going to miss my bills. But when you have a family that you need to pay for, that like it becomes very, very serious. But at the same time, I think it's such a shame because you know that there are smaller companies who may struggle, and it may take like 2 or 3 days to get the bills over the line. It may take a few days to get the funds. So it's a shame that it had to come to this. But I think in overall, the bigger picture is that you do a service, you should expect to be paid on time. But I would hate to see kind of smaller companies have to, if there is ever a case that they missed it by a couple of days, you'd hate to see them have to pay for these fines because they're quite.
So there's like a whole, like even if you want to place a complaint on the employer, there's a whole process to it for which you can call 800-60, which is the MOHRE helpline, and they will run you through the process of how to complain against your employer. But we put up this post on Instagram yesterday, which we'll be talking about tomorrow, and just a bunch of you came out with your stories of how you aren't paid on time or how you haven't received any pay whatsoever. So it's a very common issue here in, I think all over the world, like there are employers that violate these regulations, but it's still so heartbreaking. Like I have friends who work for this one company and they haven't been paid in over 4 months. And it's they blame it on COVID, but it's just ridiculous, to have your employees go through
this point, blaming it on COVID.
Yeah, honestly, it's really sad.
That's the thing, and unfortunately, if that's the case, in a number of places, authorities need to stamp down.
Yeah.
They need to clamp down. So I guess this is the regulation that's being brought in. So if you're an employer, take note of all of the stats that Simran just went through because quite the update.